The power of faith. Romans 4:18 and the next following verses. Against all hope, Abraham in hope believed, and so became the father of many nations. Just as it had been said to him, so shall your offspring be. Without weakening in his faith, he faced the fact that his body was as good as dead, since he was about 100 years old, and Sarah's womb was also dead. Yet he did not waver through unbelief regarding the promise of God, but was strengthened in his faith and gave glory to God, being fully persuaded that God had power to do what he had promised. And Abraham is one of the most greatest examples in the Bible of faith. In fact, Abraham's faith was used in the New Testament to as regards the Old Testament laws, and how that faith took over the law of Moses. But the faith we're talking about now is the faith and confidence that Abraham had in God when God made a promise to him. If we look at Abraham, when God made the promise, Abraham did not look at the outward appearance of his body, at his condition, at his human state, because if he did that, he would have not believed in God. He would have not stepped out. He would have not honoured God. Abraham was nearly 100. Sarah wasn't far behind. They were both so past it, as it were, that it would have been possible to have a child. But God made that promise to Abraham. And Abraham did not waver, he did not doubt, he did not waver at all through unbelief regarding this promise. He was absolutely confident that what God had promised, he was able to perform. Indeed, more than able, but would perform. And there are a few verses in the Bible that come to my mind now, that one that says, with God all things are possible. And the key to seeing God do wonderful things in our life is to have the power of faith in our hearts, which comes from the Lord himself. It's not of ourselves, it's a spiritual thing. It's something that God gives, and especially so when we seek it. We all have the initial faith that we are saved, faith in God, faith in Jesus and the blood. That's faith as well, the same faith, but this faith is the faith that we need to experience the blessings in our life. So coming back down to our level, and I want to pose a few questions. Do you really long for something in your life, something to happen, some dream or some vision? And being as this video is based for singles especially, do you long for a life partner, someone who will really love you and cherish you, care for you, share with you, laugh with you, cry with you, pray for you, pray with you, sharing your dreams and your hopes? Do you feel it's all too late for you? Life has passed you by. It's past hope. You're too old, maybe, you think to yourself. You're past it. Whatever the negative things that you put in front of you as potential barriers of human weakness, like Abraham could have, all these things can be removed by faith. There is indeed hope, and it is no obstacle to God at all. The things that you see as obstacles to the Lord, they are nothing. When Abraham was old, God made the promise to him, even though his body was worn out. His wife was old, yet Abraham believed in God's promise. He believed in God's faithfulness. A child was promised at his great age, and it seemed impossible. Indeed, humanly it was, but not with God. And he did not waver in doubt, because he trusted God, and he considered the Lord as faithful who had promised. And the Lord honoured his faith. Neither age or circumstances or any other thing diminished his faith. It says there in that verse, without weakening in his faith. Abraham believed what God had promised he would do. Now listen here, I was nearly 50 years old when the Lord kept his word. He promised to me through his word that he would provide me a dear wife one day to share life with. But he didn't promise me to tell me when that would be. He did not say how long I would have to wait. But by his strength, I neither wavered in faith or doubted God's ability or promise, because the Lord enabled me to be strong. But I did find it hard waiting. It was painful as the years went by, seeing everybody else getting married. And it was painful, but I knew at the end he would be faithful and make true his word and bless me far above my dreams and make up for the lost years. And I was tempted at times and longing at times just to give up and just compromise, go for second best. Go anywhere, just find some woman to be close to, someone just to have some human touch with, someone to smile with, even not a Christian. That's how desperate, how longing I was. Yet the Lord had promised, and I'd rather wait for his promise, which would be the best. And so I did wait. And he did for me far above what I could ask or imagine. And he gave me a dear wife, best friend, lover, comforter, and a dear son as well. He was faithful to his word, even though the enemy tempted me to take second best, as I've said, and just go out and find a woman and sleep with her for pleasure. But I wanted God's best, and his promise would come to pass in due time. So again I would say, what do you really want from life? What do you really long for? Are you willing to wait however long it may take? Because if his answer is yes, then ask God to give you a promise from his word that becomes real to you, and then live by it until it is fulfilled in your life, because God will honour your faith as he did for Abraham, and you will be so wonderfully blessed.